10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Plus 5 seconds.
Lift off normal.
मैं टीम चंद्रयान को, इसरो को और देश के सभी वैज्ञानिकों को जी जान से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं।
एक हाथ से तो ताली नहीं बन सकती है। मुझको सब हाथ मिले तब बड़ी ताली में बजा सकता हूँ और तब मैं सारी दुनिया को हंसा सकता हूँ। और पीछे दुनिया क्या कहेगी कि अगर कोई मुल्क को आज़ाद होना चाहिए वो तो हिंदुस्तान इस आज़ादी के लिए मुल्क है। और मेरी तो तमन्ना ये है, मेरी तो आशा ये है, ईश्वर से प्रार्थना ये है कि हिंदुस्तान ऐसा बने कि जिससे सारी दुनिया कहे कि अगर आज़ाद बनना है तो हिंदुस्तान के जैसे आज़ाद बनो, हिंदुस्तान के जैसे आज़ाद बनो, हिंदुस्तान के जैसे आज़ाद बनो।
महात्मा गांधी भारत की आजादी की लड़ाई के केंद्र बिंदु थे, लेकिन पल भर के लिए हमें यह भी सोचना चाहिए कि अगर आजाद देश में गांधी जी पैदा हुए होते तो वो क्या करते। उन्होंने आजादी की लड़ाई लड़ी, ये बात महत्वपूर्ण है, लेकिन गांधी जी के कार्यों का विस्तार सिर्फ इतना ही नहीं था। महात्मा गांधी ने एक ऐसी समाज व्यवस्था का बीड़ा उठाया जो सरकार पर निर्भर न हो। महात्मा गांधी परिवर्तन लाए, ये सर्वविदित है, लेकिन ये कहना भी उचित होगा कि उन्होंने लोगों की आंतरिक शक्ति को जगाकर उन्हें स्वयं परिवर्तन लाने के लिए जागृत किया, प्रेरित किया। अगर आजादी के संघर्ष की जिम्मेदारी महात्मा गांधी पर न होती तो भी वो स्वराज और स्वावलंबन के मूल तत्व को लेकर अपना जीवन खपा देते, आगे बढ़ते, अपना जीवन खपा देते, आगे बढ़ते, अपना जीवन खपा देते, आगे बढ़ते।
Renaissance means what? It just means that the whole civilization is having a rebirth.
Renaissance means reawakening.
A Renaissance would mean an era of national reawakening.
सब इंसान में जो आत्मा, जो छोटी सी चीज है लेकिन जिससे वो खड़ा, वो ईश्वर का अंश है। उसमें ऊंच क्या और नीच का, पवित्र क्या अपवित्र क्या। पवित्र तो वही होता है कि जो अपना पवित्र जीवन रखता है, अपवित्र वही है कि जो क्या अपवित्र रखता, अपना जीवन अपवित्र रखता।
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि मैं आपके बीच प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में नहीं, प्रधान सेवक के रूप में उपस्थित हूं। सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबको जोड़ करके चलने से कैसे परिणाम आते हैं, हमने करके दिखा। लोकतंत्र एक व्यवस्था ही है, ऐसा नहीं है, वो एक संस्कार भी है। स्वच्छ भारत का एक अभियान 125 करोड़ देशवासियों ने आरंभ किया है। हर प्रकार के आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हम सभी का एकजुट रहना, हमारी एकता हमारी सबसे बड़ी शक्ति है। सदियों का इंतजार आज समाप्त हो रहा है। राम मंदिर के लिए कई कई सदियों तक, कई कई पीढ़ियों ने अखंड, अविरत एक निष्ठ प्रयास किया है। आज का ये दिन उसी तप, त्याग और संकल्प का प्रतीक है। मैं सबसे पहले भारत की पराक्रमी सेनाओं को, सशस्त्र बलों को, हमारी खुफिया एजेंसियों को, हमारे वैज्ञानिकों को, हर भारतवासी की तरफ से सैल्यूट करता हूं। हमारे वीर सैनिकों ने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर के लक्ष्यों की प्राप्ति के लिए असीम शौर्य का प्रदर्शन किया। मैं उनकी वीरता को, उनके साहस को, उनके पराक्रम को आज समर्पित करता हूं। हमारे देश की हर माता को, देश की हर बहन को और देश की हर बेटी को ये पराक्रम समर्पित करता हूं।
I think PM Modi is definitely worthy of being called the Renaissance man.
The India post 2014 is never going to be the same. We are not going back to the India of the earlier period. I probably don't even remember the India of the earlier period because it's so different in many aspects. And Modi is the architect.
This is last 12 years have been, I would call it an era of national reawakening.
And once we had Modi ji come in as the Prime Minister, we had the section of the population which believed in the civilizational history of India. They became bigger and bigger and their voices could be heard. Otherwise, prior to that, the view of India was basically the view of what happened in Delhi. Delhi's history became India's history, but India is much bigger than Delhi.
Three leaders in India who understood the masses, what people want. One was, of course, Jawaharlal Nehru, other was Indira Gandhi, and third is Narendra Modi.
The effort was made to show by the Goras, by the colonizers, by the West, and by those who wrote our textbooks after independence, that India as a nation never existed. It was just a formation of small parts. So there was no Bharat, there was no India. Secondly, that our glorious history of ancient India was an exaggeration according to the West, because they always said, where's the proof?
The biggest contribution is that at least we are able to talk about undistorted history now. Even history has been a big casualty of this pro-Muslim politics which we saw in the first 60 years. So he has opened the doors. Mr. Modi opened the doors for legitimation of true history, correct history, undistorted history.
Just looking at Indian history holistically, as I mentioned, just picking up the most powerful empires and the longest duration empires that India had in the south, the Cholas, Cherias, bringing in history which has been buried deep in the Kilari excavations, which shows the link between the Harappans and the southern civilization, the fact that this is one single country, which is proven by history. The focus being brought back on the 51 Shakti Peeths, and they really define what India as a nation is. And perhaps it was not a nation state, but clearly it was a nation defined by where this 51 Shakti Peeths are. And so on and so forth, and bringing it back into our consciousness, right back to the age where children start looking at history, and therefore giving them a view that India's history is much deeper than just Delhi's history. And that's really the change that has been brought in from our understanding of what our history has been.
Recently, he went to the Netherlands and he got the Chola time artifacts which were repatriated to India. I think that is a very important historical piece of archive that comes back to our country.
We got back those Chola plates. They are invaluable. And we have to do the same for other things.
Sardar Patel is an important figure of the freedom struggle and responsible for the reunification of the 520 or princely states. So even when he made a Sardar Patel statue, he was also not just putting Sardar Patel on a pedestal, but was also getting a piece of history back.
We saw history through a vision that suited, I think, the Congress, and the Congress vision, of course, tends towards the Nehru Gandhi. So a lot of stalwarts of our freedom struggle were ignored. In our history book, they were perhaps not given as much space as they should have. But then when the BJP came, when Modi came to power, we suddenly see the tallest statue is that of Sardar Patel. We see Shivaji, for instance, be included in the history books, in the textbooks. Before that, there were only 68 lines in the CBSE textbooks on Shivaji.
Such a overarching figure who's such a constant in almost every frame that you realize that he has left a deep imprint on every aspect of society, economy and polity. And in that sense also there has been a cultural revival and hence the Renaissance.
I was brought up on Hindi, English, Bengali, and in class 5 to class 10 Sanskrit. That helped me when I joined the Foreign Service to master French in 6 months, because Sanskrit is the mother of all Western languages. So I think that the whole prospect of reviving ancient languages, bringing knowledge of our culture, not just inside but outside, these are all part of Prime Minister Modi's legacy.
There has been reducing funding before Modi ji came in many of the arts, and they were suffering, they were dying. We have seen that funding coming back. We are seeing more interest among the youth to go back and look at some of the cultural aspects of India, including dance, including the plays, the singing that we have, the various facets of songs that we have. So all of that is getting revived, and that's part of the larger cultural revival that is happening.
I think one thing which is particularly interesting, and he endures to a lot of people because of that, whenever Prime Minister Modi is going to any particular state, he makes it a point to incorporate some aspect of the state's culture and heritage as a part of his wardrobe, or either it's the veshti, or it's when he's going to the northeast, he's wearing those caps which are very popular, the Himachali cap, the Sikh turban. I think to the people, Modi is giving a lot of respect to your cultural sensibility, to your important part of the heritage, because in Sikhism, I think Sikhism cannot be imagined without the turban. And that makes a huge difference in kind of creating that atmosphere of integration, to kind of create that emotional appeal, which I think the Prime Minister is very conscious about.
The Jinodhar of religious places of worship across the country. You take Ujjain, you take Kashi, you take Somnath, any place you take, there has been a sort of a sea change at all these places,
We went to Ayodhya, we saw the temple, we went inside, and for the first time I understood how much India had missed out by not building the Ram Mandir earlier. Because such places every other religion has. The Christians have the Vatican, the Muslims have got Mecca, Medina, the Sardars have got the Golden Temple, etc., etc. But we, such a huge nation of Hindus, we were never allowed for so many years to build the Ram Mandir. So I would say one of his greatest contributions to history was to restore the correct perspective on history and to make young Indians understand that history which has been dictated by the West need not necessarily be the correct approach, and encouraging historians to rewrite those parts of our history which need to be rewritten so that young Indians can understand what their history really was. So I think it's a very great contribution.
In terms of icons, they've also, in terms of popular culture, popular history, they are funding a lot of narratives on leaders who've been ignored, whether it is Chhatrapati Shivaji, whether it is Veer Savarkar, Sardar Patel. We are seeing books, we are seeing statues, we are seeing films made on the forgotten heroes of our freedom struggle.
India's holdover technology is many-fold more now.
We have seen significant amount of technology being indigenized for defense. That's been a huge leap from a situation where we were importing almost all our defense equipment to a situation where now we are defending the country in live war using indigenous systems. That's been a huge change, and that has happened because of what the Prime Minister conceived.
Talk about science and technology under Modi, we of course have to talk about the trophy movement. The launch of the Chandrayaan mission. It was launched, of course, in the earlier government. We saw Chandrayaan 2 when in 2019 that crashed. But there was a lot of criticism on the wasteful expenditure and whether one should actually carry on with the program or let it go. But I think Narendra Modi believed in the scientists. He was there on ground. He comforted them. He believed in them and he stuck to the mission. And then, of course, we had the successful launch of Chandrayaan 3.
I think what leaps out is basically the contribution to Digital India. The whole issue of JAM, the trinity of Jandan, of Aadhaar, and of mobile phone. And mobile phone in multiple ways. The use of mobile phone at a large scale, where not only is everybody using it to access government services and all other kinds of services, but also the fact that we went from almost a no one in terms of manufacturing mobile phones to being the second largest mobile phone manufacturer in the world. In fact, one of our single biggest export of electronics is now mobile phones. That's a huge change. If you look at UPI, which is built on top of the Jandan Yojana and the JAM Trinity, it's the largest single payment system in the world.
The digital revolution, where even our tea vendor makes payment by online payment. I think it's a big revolution.
Even when COVID happened and the Indian vaccines were launched, he got that COVID vaccine injected in full frontal thing. That was also a statement, Modi's statement, that I have full faith and trust in Indian manufactured vaccines, because that was a huge breakthrough by Bharat Biotech. So in that sense also, he is kind of becoming the torchbearer of Indian scientific achievements.
Take what you call manufacturing of defense equipment in the country. Today, over 60% of the equipment we are ourselves producing, which was less than 30% when Mr. Modi took over.
Onwards, we see not only Mr. Modi but the entire political apparatus, that being BJP, every Vidayak, every MLA, every MP ensures that the government scheme benefit reaches to the urban and rural poor. So if there is a 99 or 100% delivery, then people feel good, and that is why you have this Ladli Bahina Yojana or various yojanas or various schemes, making kind of political investment in Mr. Modi.
He has given Indians a sense of identity. He's made us proud of our Bharatiyata in that sense. He has brought back a lot of the medieval past, a lot of the past that was, not highlighted by the earlier governments. So he has given a very inclusive, wholesome sense of what is being Indian to the population.
If you look at Narendra Modi, I have covered him for the last 39 years. and very closely I have seen his political journey, his journey as an administrator. Narendra Modi is the father of at least 12 governance revolutions in the country.
What comes to your mind is the saying of Yato Bhavo Tad Bhavati. The vision that was brought in was manifested eventually. And we see that the Prime Minister has been envisioning large projects.
He has brought about a new consciousness of the role of the woman, of the importance of our education, of how the country cannot move forward without its women folk.
Speak to the women of rural India and they'll tell you that how empowered they feel to have a separate bank account. They don't have to ask money. Even if it's at 3,000 rupees, 4,000 rupees saved, that's their saving in that bank account of theirs. So they feel very happy about it, that if they have to give it to some relative whose Shagan ceremony is happening, they just have to take it out and give it, as opposed to going to your husband and asking for money.
Mr. Modi is the Janak or what I call father of at least 12 revolutions. Today, if you are getting more than 20 hours power in the country, it is Narendra Modi who did it. He started in Gujarat and that it became a inspiration for the entire country.
His vision of toilet for all, which was part of his cleanliness drive, they were lampooned in global media. And guess what? It's one of the biggest contributor of better health for India. We rolled out toilets at a rate which is unprecedented in the history of mankind. And we see therefore that number of days that people fall sick has reduced. Productivity has gone up.
I always say that because of Narendra Modi's use of technology and his commitment, India is saving at least rupees 3 to 4 lakh crore rupees per year, which is a very big amount.
Well, I think Swachh Bharat was very much there and it should have been there, but I must give credit to Mr. Narendra Modi to make it, associating it directly and making it happen. That change of attitude has taken place, that Swachh Bharat, and this is, all over India. I see that people, we Indians we give a lot of focus to hygiene and cleanliness, but suddenly we realize as a nation we need to be very, tidy, clean and remove garbage. So this is one contribution where Prime Minister has made a direct contribution.
India is undergoing a renaissance, definitely. And the reason for that is that we have understood that in the ultimate analysis, you have to fall back on your own strength.
The rebirth is happening in the mind. It's more of the mind game that's happening. Before 2013, if you spoke to an average Indian, they had a really pessimistic view of India. It was that the pride in India was not there. We see that having changed. That game in the mind has changed. And that's the first renaissance that I would talk about. People are now proud.
In the case of PM Modi, he has brought back to us our self-respect, our self-dignity, our knowledge of our past, and has made us proud that past will lead us inexorably to a great future. A past which had got dimmed due to colonization and which PM Modi has been able to reinvigorate in the minds of 1.4 billion Indians.
Participation of women in workspaces, and that I think that has gone up by leaps and bounds, and that will change India dramatically. I think you're suffering on that account.
Today is a great day for us that he has now become the longest serving Prime Minister of India. He has surpassed Jawaharlal Nehru's record. And in doing so, he has indicated the first Prime Minister was a man of privilege, elite, money, land, property. Our Prime Minister has demonstrated that a person with no money, no property, no elite habits can do the same or better. He's done better. He's done much better.
So comparison is a thief of joy. Jawaharlal Nehru inherited a very divided and a very poor country. So his thinking was very socialist, to take everyone along. What Mr. Modi has done, bring cultural domination and that kind of Swadeshi. Swadeshi was there then also against British Raj. But here, Mr. Modi's conversion of from Chinese goods, from European goods, from American goods to Indian goods.
I think Jawaharlal Nehru came from an affluent background. He was the son of Motilal Nehru, the only son of Motilal Nehru. So Motilal Nehru himself was a very celebrated lawyer at that point in time. So he got very good education. He had access to a large network of international people because he studied abroad extensively. So he built those networks, which eventually became very, very important when he became Prime Minister.
His background came more from his education in UK, from a background where he was part of a family of one of the richest families in northern India. And that surely impacted his decision making, his connect with the people, his choice of what would be the right policies for India. And he obviously started some of the largest industries in India at that point in time. So he had a privileged background, and that has an influence. His immediate ecosystem were of people who were with whom we studied in UK, and therefore that is the influence on the ecosystem that really drove Jawaharlal Nehru.
If you look at his ancestral property in Allahabad, or you read Discovery of India, which he wrote from prison, and you read up about his personal life, you would understand that he represented perfectly a colonized Indian in a colonized country. Our Prime Minister, on the other hand, is a man of the masses. He went through so much heartbreak, poverty and deprivation when he was growing up. But the spirit in him, the Indian spirit in him, overcame all obstacles.
Childhood and his early years have been years of struggle, as documented by a large number of historians, and I have read extensively on that because he left home at an early age. He enlisted in the RSS, was constantly traveling, did not come from a very affluent family.
Modi ji came from a background which is extremely humble. So his understanding of what a vulnerable class means is far more acute than somebody like you and me or our first Prime Minister because of our privileged backgrounds. And therefore the ability to connect and have policies which really change people were different. Jawaharlal Nehru's vision was industrialization because that was the influence he had from his upbringing in UK. If you look at what Modi ji was doing, he's getting in toilets in people's houses. Nobody ever talked about it for the first so many decades. It was, we'll have ODF and so on and so forth, and we'll stop ODF, which is open defecation, but nobody said, let's have toilets in everybody's house. That's a very different thought process. And that comes from the fact that you've been living with vulnerable sections of the society.
But that gave him the advantage. He saw the miseries of the people down below.
Modi's life has been, he's a self-made man. He didn't have any godfathers. He came up the hard way. He was not even the first choice of Gujarat Chief Minister. He was sent to Gujarat as a pracharak and he worked his way up. He made his mark. He did a trial by media, as you know, during the 2002 riots. And finally, when the turn came for the BJP to put up a strong candidate against the Congress to revive the party, that is when they turned to Modi. So in that sense, he was the savior of the BJP.
Partition happened because Jawaharlal Nehru insisted that he would become Prime Minister. There was a point of time when Jinnah had said, we can rotate the Prime Ministerships between Jinnah and Nehru. If Jawaharlal Nehru had agreed, there would have been no partition. Secondly, if Sardar Patel had not been there, we would have lost the whole of J&K. These are very, very costly mistakes that our first Prime Minister made, like turning down the American proposal that we take over the vacant seat of China in the UN Security Council. He said, I'm a gentleman, I can't do that, apparently. But in real politics, there's no place for being a gentleman. You have to do what your country's national interests dictate.
Nehru has to deal with the problem immediately of partition and independence. That was a huge thing. Your northwest and the northeast part of the country was going to be divided, and you had huge amount of people moving across the borders and accompanied by massive amounts of violence and of course the invasion in Kashmir. Nehru was like that guy who got you freedom, nice guy, the left liberals favorite Nehru, and Nehru could do no wrong. Nehru's pressures, Nehru had so much stress. I don't hear such things for Prime Minister Modi at all.
Jawaharlal Nehru had one advantage and also disadvantage. Advantage was the euphoria after independence, So many of his blunders at that time went unnoticed.
Obviously, we have the luxury of looking at the outcome of Jawaharlal Nehru's policies with 70 years of hindsight.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he has an acute understanding of the dangers of India's neighborhood, which Jawaharlal Nehru did not have.
If you look at the current era, it's not just a daily and second by second reaction from the public thanks to the social media. It's also a lot of algorithmic interventions, and a lot of the algorithms are not controlled by India. And a lot of the algorithms are being controlled by nations and by forces which are not really happy with the growth that India is being seen to have, or more importantly, the power that India wields. There has been a significant shift in the global perception of India's power, and that has not made everybody very happy. And therefore, there are large-scale algorithmic interventions that happen, which then shifts people's perception. And it's a much more challenging world that we live in, not just for Modi ji, but for all of us. That was not the case when Nehru ji was around.
Even before he becomes Prime Minister, everyone is like, oh my God, he's going to become Prime Minister, let's. So he was really attacked left, right and center. So he comes in as someone who a lot of people from the opposition are very, very unhappy about. Nobody talks about the pressures of Narendra Modi or the fact. I think there is a narrative about Narendra Modi which does not allow us to even probably try to understand a situation, because we are preconceived in our mindset about the Prime Minister and that goes a huge way. I think the fact that he was very unguarded about his faith and about his feelings, people took it and used it against him. Nehru kept his faith in the background, but Narendra Modi is a completely different person. He does not want to put his faith aside for the sake of pleasing to a large cross-section of the people.
Nehru was the idea of India, while Modi is the idea of Bharat. He takes the nationalism of Modi versus the internationalism of Nehru, while Nehru was looking outwards because he had to project India on the global stage. Modi did that, but also Modi looked inwards to project India outwards. No one has used India's soft power as strongly and as effectively as Narendra Modi.
In terms of opposition also, Nehru had the opposition from within the Congress. The Congress Socialists, which was an important section in the Congress party, broke away from the Congress in 1948. They formed a separate party. Then you had Sardar Patel, who disagreed with him on a lot of issues, including the handling of the Hindu refugees. Then you have Charat Singh, who had major disagreements with Nehru. Even Maulana Abul Kalam Azad had disagreements with Nehru. So a lot of opposition to Nehru came from within the Congress party. Also, that gives you a lot of cushioning when you don't have opposition. Ambedkar also opposed Nehru a great deal over his promises to the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, and the fact that those promises were not fulfilled. That was his reason for his resignation from the Nehru's cabinet. But when you don't have opposition, as in a political party type of oppositions that we have today, that gives you a lot of cushioning.
With that kind of sweeping majority, you don't have to struggle in Parliament to push reform through, to build a consensus, to persuade everybody, because it's much easier for you. You stand in Parliament as Prime Minister, and 3/4 of it is packed with your own party people. That was a different world.
There was very little opposition. As you mentioned, the only opposition that was there moved into Pakistan, the East and West Pakistan. So there wasn't much of a opposition left.
pro-Muslim policies were forced on the country, taking advantage of Gandhiji's murder. Because Gandhiji's murderer was a Hindu, entire Hindu community was put on the back foot. So this was a very bad beginning for a nation which was becoming independent after about 600 years.
The Bharatiya Janata Party is also never going to be the same. With him, it is completely transformed into an electoral machine, pretty much like the Congress of the 1950s and 1960s. Under Nehru, Congress under Nehru was an electoral machine. It went on winning elections after elections after elections. So the Bharatiya Janata Party is also not the same.
So from 51 till 64, when Nehru was alive, 17 long years, no leader of opposition, no opposition. There were some MPs of Bharatiya Janata Sangh and communist parties were there. But Mr. Modi had a lot of opposition on the streets of all over India, in terms of civil society, in terms of political opposition. They didn't have numbers, but the opposition is there in regional parties as well as the Congress party.
The times we live with, any opposition is taken as a perceived criticism. In terms of numbers, in terms of actually opposition party, we are seeing really the death of the opposition. In terms of numbers also, the BJP currently does not have an outright majority, but we do not see a vibrant opposition against Narendra Modi. The Congress has been reduced to double digits.
The era under Jawaharlal Nehru was very, very different, right? Again, and I would like to keep repeating that. So it's difficult to imagine what were the real circumstances under which they'd operated. Many a time we use the ambassador car as a poster boy of what goes wrong when you don't innovate. The fact of the matter is that, as per game theory, no company in the world would innovate in the given circumstances because you did not have the license to sell any extra. Not one more car, not one more Bajaj scooter, and hence the growth in the economy was severely constrained.
The spirit of socialism lasted longer than it should have with Nehru. And he was of course very, very influenced by the Soviet model. And that, I think, was a big mistake that he made initially. But the first 5-year plan, I would say, went off very well. Second 5-year plan, when the flaws were coming in, that's the time when corrective measures should have been taken.
I think one, modernization of the economy, not just from what kind of industry that comes in, but modernization of how the economy and the financial structure works, such as ease of doing business, such as introducing GST, which has been transformative, such as ensuring that there is easy access to capital, which is through the mudra loans, through the small loans that are being given to the smallest of the micro entrepreneurs, the 1,000 rupee, 2,000 rupee, 10,000 rupee loans that are needed for a rediwala, for a shopkeeper, and so on. So it's transformative in that sense, where every part of the economy is touched.
Modi is a unique Prime Minister. Before he became the Prime Minister, he had visited or been to at least 400 districts in the country. It's not a small thing.
The Prime Minister rightly believes that one has to invest in research, R&D, research and development. And he has encouraged the corporate sector to also invest. All successful, highly developed economies have huge investment by the corporate sector in R&D, but not in India. Because in India, the approach used to be, let the government do the R&D investment, let us focus on duplicating, triplicating our profits. There was no consciousness of the fact that we were left out of the first industrial revolution because we were colonized. This is the fourth industrial revolution. We should not be left out of it. And of course, government is doing its best. It is investing.
The Jan Dhan stands for people being able to get the direct benefit into their pockets. And what was happening earlier was that funds will be put into schemes, and then, as Rajiv Gandhi had famously said, only 17 paisa out of 1 rupee goes to the people. The rest of it would get leaked. With these change systems, the most vulnerable sections of the society are able to get money into their pockets. If you look at what happened during COVID, when the rest of the world was pumping in money and distributing it in a very, very random manner, just spraying it around, India very judiciously put in money into the pockets of those who really needed it. And therefore, we came out in flying colors in terms of being able to manage our inflation, being able to manage our fiscal deficit, and we were almost back on track in terms of the fiscal deficit as of last year. And that's the benefit that people are getting. And
under his time, we have gone into free trade agreements for the first time, because he understands that for India to be a great economic power, you have to be competitive.
Take a look at the GST. He had the mandate, he implemented it, he did something which the Congress couldn't do. So he has the guts and the goodwill of the people and the credibility to implement decisions which may not be his, which may have been the opposition's, but when he believed in them, he implemented them. The GST was very unwieldy, and he has, to his credit, he has accepted that there was some things wrong with it, and he has tinkered with it and fixed the problem. When Jawaharlal Nehru became Prime Minister, the Cold War had already started. Europe had been divided into two spheres of influence. Eastern Europe went to USSR, Western Europe went to the US and the West and NATO. Under those circumstances, what he opted for was that the global South should protect themselves from getting sucked into a third world war by maintaining non-alignment. But as he always said, non-alignment does not mean neutrality. Non-alignment means you're not allied to any power bloc. You have the power to take independent decisions.
Nehru's policy of non-alignment was not non-alignment actually. We were aligned with the Soviet bloc in a very discreet, not said or talking from the rooftops sort of an approach. The Congress Socialist Party, the Communist Party of India, all of them had connections with people.
Many used to say our first Prime Minister was pretty indecisive because he wanted to satisfy everyone. At some point of time in politics, you can't do that. You have to take a decision and move forward. And if people don't like it, try to persuade them, but keep moving forward all the same. So that is a very fundamental difference between the India of Jawaharlal Nehru, the debacle of '62, and now. Narendra Modi's foreign policy, which has evolved during the period that he's been Prime Minister, is based on a shrewd and strategic calculation of India's core national interests.
If you look at his technique in foreign policy, Donald Trump tried to provoke him, no end. He did not get provoked. When he used to speak, use very bad language for India, the reply used to be given by Vikram Misri, our Foreign Secretary, or Randir Jaiswal, our spokesperson of MEA. Correct? And behind that, he was working out deals with various nations. The kind of deal he has worked out with EU.
And Modi has no qualms when it comes to national interest to kind of seek out any leader who is ready to help our country in times of need, and I don't see a problem with it. Indira Gandhi, when during the Nixon years, she was very trying to get close to the Nixon administration. Although they disliked her immensely in that sense, but she was trying to. But when it came to 1971 and the Bangladesh war and the international interference, she did not allow any kind of interference of any kind, and national interest became supreme.
India has been strengthened, and therefore it is Modi ji has been able to balance various pushes and pulls in the international arena on almost a daily basis. We have seen how the geopolitics has moved, the geoeconomics has moved, how anything and everything that can be weaponized has been weaponized. The latest being the Hormuz Strait. It has been weaponized. The impact on India is very, very degrading.
We had to reassess who are our friends and not annoy our enemies, to maintain a balance, a balancing power. We did that in his latest visit, for instance. The first country he went to was United Arab Emirates. But that would not have been the case 30 years ago. He went to UAE to reassure the leadership to say that we are with you, to reassure the 1.2 million Indian diaspora there, who have not left. They are there. They're continuing to work from home, etc. Things are slowly getting back to normal. And in Europe, fresh alliances with new partners, like the third India-Nordic Summit. The Nordics had never been given high priority from the time of Nehru onwards. Nordics are very rich. They have huge technology which they have no problem in sharing. They are experts on climate change. They are experts on cleaning up rivers and waterways. And they are also experts in heritage management. These are things which they are willing to share with us, along with huge FDI flows. Please don't forget how rich Norway is. Norway is not part of EU. It has a partnership agreement. These are very, very rich countries. And for the first time, they are wanting to invest in India.
And when G20 was held in India, a very big step has gone unnoticed. Narendra Modi ensured that African Union becomes the member of G20. Now, this is a very big development according to me, looking to where we want to see ourselves. We want to see ourselves as a developed nation also. We also want to see ourselves as spiritual leaders of the world.
I think Mr. Narendra Modi has come in a world stage when the world itself is very, fragmented. The old system and order is collapsing. Mr. Modi's style is to keep everyone along. So he's doing a lot of, multilateralism, like his image, as his interaction, and his, delivery vis-a-vis, the other countries is very good.
Don't forget, we're living in the era of Donald Trump. That's the very transactional era. The whole of foreign policy has become very transactional. It has to be India first. And I think the Prime Minister is aware of that. Look at the stand he took on the Russia-Ukraine war, for instance, or even with Iran and Israel. Yes, he was in Israel when the war was announced, or soon after. But after that, we have reached out to Iran. We've sent out channels, and we have built a relationship with them. So in that sense, it has to be India first, and whichever nation works for India works for Modi.
Concept of Antyodaya, or the last person standing, has been the mantra from day one.
First priority is that my people should rise above the below poverty line.
Access to healthcare, getting those major surgeries, the big C, the cancer ward, itself is very scary. A lot of people be like, we can't spend the money we have saved for our daughter's wedding or our son's wedding or son's education or daughter's education on our cancer treatment. So the woman or the man would let go of the treatment for the sake of this. People have very minuscule savings. So they'll decide how to spend their money. So this access to healthcare gives you that opportunity to at least take a chance and get that treatment. I think that's huge.
Education has been popularized. Education has gone to the masses. The government schools, which people used to look down upon, they are producing huge successes. There is free schooling up to a certain level. And even kids whose parents are very poor, they no longer say they should stay at home and try to contribute in a small way to the family business. They understand the importance of sending kids to school. When I take my morning walk at 7 in the morning in Vijay Mandal Park in South Delhi, I feel proud when I see all these little cute little toddlers, so many girls, carrying their lunch box and their heavy bags and their water bottle, going to school. Who's done that? That's the new education policy.
Second part of it is a hard part of it. The amount of roads you're building on a daily basis is more than what China was building at their peak. And so the transformation that the roads will be bringing in is enormous. It's not that India has less land and therefore it's crowded. It's because we've got less roads. So where people have to stay in closed places. We've got more land which is livable than what China has. And therefore, once it's road construction, the infrastructure, the ports, the coastal shipping, the railways, the river-based shipping, transportation, when all of that starts opening up, the cost of logistics comes down very, very dramatically. And that again is the renaissance that we're talking about.
It's a resurgent India. It's a very different India, and where people do not have any objection to calling themselves the new Bharat.
He made us aware of the fact that there were not enough toilets in the rural areas and actually did something about it. But I think if you ask me, the scheme that really, has worked in terms of connecting India or in terms of inclusion is the Jan Dhan scheme, which is making sure that every Indian is connected to a bank account. It's not just the bank account, it gives them access to government schemes, it gives them access to welfare economics, it gives them access to what is rightfully theirs.
आज नया भारत नए लक्ष्य तय कर रहा है, नए रास्ते गढ़ रहा है, नया जोश है, नया उमंग है, नया सफर है, नई सोच है, दिशा नई है, दृष्टि नई है, संकल्प नया है, विश्वास नया है। और आज फिर एक बार पूरा विश्व भारत के संकल्प की दृढ़ता को, भारतवासियों की प्रखरता को, भारतीय जनशक्ति की जिजीविषा को आदर और उम्मीद के भाव से देख रहा है। जब भारत आगे बढ़ता है तो विश्व आगे बढ़ता है।